So yeah, let's talk about when high EBITDA can be a red flag. And when we think about high, we're thinking 35% plus. And yeah, the first thing that calls out to us when EBITDAs are that high, it could mean that they're under investing in sales and marketing, and or other areas that could support in their future growth.
Yeah, I mean, so this just kind of reminds me because like just looking at so every week we're reviewing agency P&Ls, right, that come in for M&A, and just looking at a few of them over the last week, even there are a lot of agencies that are reporting 50 plus 60% EBITDA, and
Yeah,
like as a snapshot, it's like it's flashy number because you're like, whoa, cool. They're doing 4 million in revenue, but they're doing 2+ million in EBITDA. Wow, this is like a very profitable agency. But then you take a step back and then you look at their growth over the last 3 years, and you realize they're pretty flat or declining. And so in terms of the revenue, the top line, and so yeah, that just like goes to show it's like, hey, they built something profitable, but they did not invest in any growth.
yeah, and I guess to that point is to look at how much they spend on growth. In the case that that's could be okay is actually if they have a really high gross margin. So let's say it's 70-80%, and they still invested 20-30% of that for SG&A, and their EBITDA ends up north of 35%. Maybe that scenario is okay. Like it's not like a lack of investment
Yeah.
there. But on the flip side, let's say you have 40% gross margin and 35% EBIT, and you've only spent 5% on all of SG&A, like that could signal a flag of underinvestment.
Yeah. No, and
Yeah.
usually, I think that rings very true because, some of these agencies that we've seen with the flat growth, it's like when they're reporting 60% EBITDA, their gross margin is probably right around there as well.
Yeah.
It's like around 58% gross margin. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I guess, if we think about, what is the flag? Like, why are we, what do we look at is, there might be an under investment in biz dev, so, dedicated resources or processes around that. So it might be very like founder led business development and marketing for that matter. So it could be minimal or minimal marketing at all. Like they're not investing in, all the activities to get awareness. And, from that, it could be very founder driven relationship. So all the leads coming in are just from the founder's personal network. So there isn't a lot of system built out for growth. And then ultimately, the pipeline isn't that strong. If it's it could be very sporadic where leads come in. It could be just people, referrals from relationships, and we'll see like not a lot of like organic leads come in because there's not a lot of awareness of the agency. So there's just a lot of gaps where if you don't invest there, you could temporarily have a high EBITDA number, but it is a warning sign for us.
All right. Actually, so this is fun. One of the things in our kind of many conversations with agency leaders, right, is like this statement of especially when you look at their P&L and, profits are, let's say, sub 10%, even break even, and in some cases,
Yeah.
even negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
The thing that we often hear is, oh, that was a year that we invested in growth. And we're here to point out a lot, I'd say 9 out of 10 times probably, it's like a myth, right? This kind of we invested in growth. So let's dive into why that might be.
Yeah, so when we see that or hear that, we always look at the gross margin, right? Because the gross margin should tell a story of, usually what we see is gross margins have slipped, and from there, if your gross margin is low and your SG&A is a fixed expense or you're spending the same amount, that's easily how you can get to a low EBITDA number. And, if you dig into why gross margins slipped, it's all the things we talked about where, maybe their pricing power went down and they've been a little bit less disciplined. So they're discounting and trying to win work at lower budgets without really, changing how they're doing scoping or staffing, and just not very, managed very well. And there's just not room, like when your gross margins are low, when you have low utilizations, like there's not a lot of room to fund growth. So any growth that, let's say they did invest in growth, like that is, taking them from a low gross margin to, close to break even or negative as a business.
Yeah. So let's illustrate for folks because, like, I think we get asked this so much. It's kind of like, hey, what is the right kind of profile? Like, what's the discipline kind of right kind of profile for an agency in terms of percentages, down the stack, the kind of margin stack, let's say. So maybe just go through like rule of thumb, and then obviously depending on the situation, you kind of modify here and there. But yeah, let's share this because I think this is like something we get asked multiple times every week.
Yeah. So let's say 50+% as a gross margin target, 15 to 20% for sales and marketing, 5 to 10% for other G&A expenses to land at around 20 to 30% EBIT. I think like that's like a comfortable, healthy mix for the business.